The sailing beta has added a ton of systems and features that we need to discuss. Let's break down the combat system and the crew system, as well as random events, sailing on mobile, some boat speed upgrade potential, and a training method I did not expect to be added to the beta. Starting off with something small but very important, in the alpha we saw some feedback stating that boats felt a little too slow. Some people thought they felt a little too slow. Now with this beta we have the boat stat screen that was added, and at the very bottom we have base speed, max speed, and speed duration. This is very good information, but what I noticed is when I upgraded my boat in the beta, these stats got better. This is huge. Basically, this confirms that as you upgrade your boat, the boat is going to get faster, it's going to do better with speed boosts, and the speed boosts are going to last longer. So this should help address some of the feedback of the boat feeling a little too slow, and I think when you reach higher levels, you're going to notice a significant difference over lower level boats. Combat is one of the major systems added in the beta, and honestly it feels a lot like a RuneScape game. You click on something and you both attack each other back and forth. A lot of times you can just stand still during this part. But there are obviously differences compared to land combat. Land combat you have different attack styles, you have gear switches, you have prayer switches, and of course you have movement, especially later into the game. Where this, a lot of that doesn't exist. You don't have necessarily prayer switches and you don't have gear switches or different weapons, but you do have positioning as kind of a new thing for sailing. Positioning was kind of fun to maneuver around like sharks in a way where I could set up a safe spot, or maybe I could just avoid them completely by circling around them in a certain way. That was pretty unique. Now, cannons also located on one side of the ship, so you did have to position your ship in a way where you were effectively shooting that all the time. But I expect the larger ships will have cannons on both sides, which would remove that, skill, I suppose, of keeping your ship on one side. But we'll have to see once sailing releases. It's really tough to judge the mechanics of combat in the beta because everything we're fighting doesn't have mechanics really. It's like fighting cows and blood velds and stuff like that. You're just sitting there and waiting for the most part. Now, when they start adding more complex creatures, I think we could start to see the ceiling of combat rise further. I think we'll have to lean into one of the more unique aspects of sailing though, the positioning of your boat. So I would like to see these boss encounters, for example, have, maybe wave attacks that get thrown your way, or lightning strikes that come down, or maybe you need to leverage your speed boost properly in order to mitigate damage or deal more damage. That is probably going to be what makes sailing combat fun and unique and really skill driven. But it's hard to say right now because we don't have that. I do think the positioning aspect is definitely the most unique aspect of combat. I like that when you're closer, you'll take more damage, but it's fairly easy. If you're too far away, your cannonballs actually hit the water. You're like literally splashing, which is very funny to see. I also like that you can hit creatures on the land. It's probably very novel to hit creatures on the land, but the first thing I thought of was the fact that level 3 skillers could sail and take out creatures with their boat and not gain combat XP. Something that really could add a layer of complexity is exactly what your character is supposed to do while you're doing combat. Once you have crew members to control your ship and control the cannons, your character is doing nothing. So the obvious thing is you're using repair kits to keep your boat repaired and full health. The other thing that I thought was interesting there in the beta is I'd pull a shark in, loot it, while attacking another shark. Sort of making like a more efficient way of slaying these sharks, getting through my bounty tasks, and that was very interesting, definitely. But there could be even more. I know early on in the technical aspects of sailing way back, they showed like somebody ice barraging to another boat. And right now you can't do that. You can't attack another boat. You can't attack a shark with like a bow or a spell. So they might have dialed back on that. They might have decided that wasn't something they wanted to go with, but there could be potential for that in the future. Something else I thought was interesting is there's a couple waters to the east during the beta that were waters you essentially couldn't access. Your boat could not get high enough level to get through them. And one water, your character loses health, like you're getting like sunburned. The other water was called profane waters, and it did not allow you to use prayers, like overhead prayers and stuff like that. I thought that was very interesting because as far as we could tell, there was no use to use prayers anywhere in sailing. So if you had these waters that limited you from using prayers for whatever reason, there must be a reason for that. There must be a reason to have prayers outside of this area, right? Unless they were just trying to stop us from redemption proccing. But I don't know. This to me is a little sign that there might be an extra layer in the future where your character will still have to do protection prayers during combat. The crew system is the biggest change compared to the alpha. This completely changes the way that you operate your boat. Basically, you can assign crew members to different parts of your boat, and it makes it so that when you're doing actions, like if you want to shoot something or salvage hook or move your boat, they kind of just happen without you having to be on the station. So in the alpha, if you wanted to salvage something, you would need to drive your boat there on the helm, then get off the helm, get on the hook, and you're salvaging. This, you could have somebody on the helm, have another crew member on the salvaging hook, and you could do all those actions without having to move between stations. So it definitely makes it a lot easier. Crew members drastically improve skilling for sailing, and in some ways, they can be essential for certain training methods we'll get into later in this video. In terms of making certain methods just way better, port tasks is a very obvious one. You can have 2 crew members on your boat, so when you go to grab the crates, 3 of you and your 2 crew members will grab the crates. What I found interesting though is it wasn't loading 3 crates, it was loading 4 crates every time I did this. And I wasn't sure why at first, but I did notice when you go to Pandemonium and you go to your crew manager here, you are technically assigning 3 crew in the beta, even though there's only 2 max on your boat. So maybe the system is actually looking at that. Or it's a bug. We'll have to see exactly. But either way, this made port tasks a lot faster to do. It's going to definitely increase your XP per hour as well. And I suspect in the future, there's going to be even more improvements when it comes to crew and port tasks. This isn't the only way that training methods get improved with the crew system. There is a lot to dig into here. When it comes to salvaging, there's some trade-offs here. You can have your crew member salvage and you get reduced XP. However, they use the cargo hold automatically, so you don't have to get off the hook to put your stuff in the cargo hold. You can just let them do that instead, and they don't even leave the hook at all. And if your cargo hold is 60, 80 slots, that's a lot of AFK time for you. But if you don't want to be fully AFK, what you could do here is drive the boat, go to the helm while they're salvaging, and just set yourself up in a way where you're stuck against the salvage. This means that you can trim your sails and use your wind moat while your crew member is salvaging, which is even more XP. However, the best method comes from when you have 2 crew members, you have one of them on the helm and one of them salvaging. So this means you have somebody salvaging where it's going to take them a long time to fill up. You have somebody on the helm where they're going to automatically trim the sails, and then every minute and a half, you could just come and click that moat 3 times and get a chunk of XP. And when you combine all this, it's actually a pretty powerful method for training sailing. I thought it was very interesting and completely different compared to the alpha. So those are the core training methods, but there is one secret method in the beta that they did not advertise at all, and you need at least 1 crew member to really do this method, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But before we do that, I want to talk about 2 things in the crew system that I thought were pretty annoying. The first thing is Barracuda trials. If you have a crew member on board, it says you cannot do a Barracuda trial, which means I'd have to go back to Pandemonium, take out my crew, and then go back to the Barracuda trial, which was just a lot of extra work for no reason. And if there's trials in the future that are more out at sea, it's going to be even more annoying. Or if you forget to do that, you're going to be frustrated. Really, the simple solution here is that your crew should just go in the Barracuda boat while you're doing the trial, right? Like just have it do that automatically. I'm hoping they're already thinking about this. That way we don't have to do these unnecessary trips. The other annoying thing I found with the crew system in the beta is the fact that your crew has PhDs across the board in Yaponomics. Like, they do not stop talking. They are talking like every 4 seconds, saying the exact same line over and over and over and over again. And the worst offender is when you put somebody on the cannon. Like, I just wanted somebody on the cannon so that, I don't know, when I see something, I can immediately shoot it, as opposed to having to assign somebody on the cannon and then shoot it. When you do that though, and there's no targets around, oh boy, you do not hear the end of it. There's nothing to fire at. There's nothing to fire at. Just stop talking. Just sit there. I'm the captain now, okay? Look at me. I'm the captain. Stop. they just didn't stop ever. And that was just one of the most annoying things in the beta by far. When you're going by other boats, it's like, oh, is somebody trying to talk to me? Oh no, that's just their crew member talking, because that's all they do. So I hope that they like get rid of that completely, or have it be very rare or during certain situations, because I get it, it adds some liveliness or whatever to the boat, but overall it was just very cluttery and very frustrating to see. Okay, so I'm done crashing out about my crew members. Now I want to talk about this sort of secret training method that I didn't expect to be in the beta, and that has to do with the fishing shoals. Now, they're on the map, there's a couple icons, and I don't know if they were there just to like tease us or if there was actually a way to interact with them. So I went to them and I eventually found them floating around, and it said I needed a fishing rod. So I decided, hey, let me go grab a fishing rod and some bait, right? And this is where you'll need the crew member, at least one. You'll need one of them at the helm so that you can actually fish. So when I tried to fish at this point, it said, you know, you don't have bait, even though I had bait in my inventory, and I took out multiple baits to test it. So at one point I was thinking, okay, maybe they haven't like coded it in, but then I think I read somewhere a long time ago, or maybe the thought just hit me, is I wanted to try fish offcuts, and I happen to have a few on me, and that actually allowed me to fish these fishing shoals, which was so cool. There were two types of fish that you could catch. It was krill, which healed for 16, and haddock, which healed for 18. The haddock, when you use a knife on it, you occasionally get the eye as well, but I wasn't able to make any potions, but I suspect this will be an ingredient in the future. Now, the fishing method itself is kind of unique. The fishing shoal is moving around constantly, so you have to keep up with it with your boat. Keeping up with it can be a little bit awkward because your fast speed is too fast, your slow speed is too slow, so I wish it would adjust for that, but the overall theme of it I do like, and I do like that it's a sort of moderately active fishing method. A lot of the fishing methods in the game, all the traditional ones, you just click on a spot and wait, right? You have temporas, but that's like a mini game. This is like a traditional fishing method, and it's a little bit more active because you have to move your boat around. So with traditional gathering methods like fishing, a lot of times you have the fishing spot and you want to bank nearby and you're going to teleport back and forth, or whatever the case is. This is a lot different. This, you can't teleport to the area, you can't teleport to the bank. You have to actually go with your boat, and it could take a minute, 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes to get to a spot. Now, typically, players don't like these long, travel times. They're never worth it. But this is a little bit different, and I think it's going to be received a little bit different. Your cargo hold is sort of like a mini bank, right? You always have one on deck. In the beta, you have one that does 30, you can upgrade it to 45, then upgrade it again to 60, right? And I suspect later on, that's gonna be upgraded to something like 100, 120 slots, right? So you have like a pretty hefty bank on your boat, at least when it comes to holding stuff that's relevant to sailing. This makes it feel that you are actually going on like a fishing expedition with your crew, right? You're gonna go to these spots that are gonna take a little bit of time to get to. Then you're gonna sit there and you're gonna get a ton of fish, right? Let's say your cargo's 120, your character can hold 25, your fishing barrel another 28. That's like 175 fish before going back, which is just like a huge haul. And it feels like, I don't know, a little like real life. Like you're going on these giant fishing trips and coming back with a lot of fish. And I think it's a unique thing to sailing, having this cargo hold and this situation where you're not just teleporting between a bank. And I really, really do enjoy that. You can also have a range on your boat and cook these fish, but if you do that, they can't go back in the cargo hold, so I don't think it's going to be worth it for shoals. The range might still be useful when it comes to going into like dangerous waters or dangerous encounters where your character is taking damage, because you can store a bunch of raw fish, way more than you can carry, and just cook it as you need it, right? You can have like 80 raw fish and cook it as you need it. So that's very interesting and kind of thematic to boats as well, right? You're going to store a bunch of things on the boat and cook them as you need them. Mobile actually felt really good for sailing, particularly moving your boat actually felt way better than I thought it was going to be. Movement on mobile can be an awkward thing on land, and this was like just a lot better than on land. I think just setting your boat to heading felt really easy to do. It was hard to misclick, right, compared to land. So honestly, this is gonna be great for mobile. I'll probably do Barracuda Trials on mobile if I really want to, but I think generally speaking, port tasks, salvaging, like it's gonna be very, very good to do on mobile, and you're not gonna feel that much of a degradation compared to doing it on PC. They also added a few random events in the beta, stuff like crates you can reel in for some loot, or these like gold spots you can go on top of to gain some extra XP. There was also one where you can find some strong winds and allow yourself to trim the sails multiple times, allow you to capture more wind in your wind moat. This is obviously good for XP and stuff, but I just like that it helps create even more speed, right? The more speed we go in the water, the better at this point. So that one was very nice. They also did some teasers for some future upgrades of the boat, just so that you can conceptualize exactly what type of facilities you can have. There were also teasers of some higher level waters, as mentioned earlier. Profane waters, like sun-soaked waters or whatever it was called, could not handle in the beta. Your crew panics when you go inside of it, and the invisible wall will stop you from progressing. No clue why there's an invisible wall there when the other side has a very visible stone wall. I was looking forward to going through. I guess they could have just done a stone wall, but whatever. And the last thing, there's some new resources that exist on land that you can farm. Stuff like new types of bark. There were new ores like lead. There was stuff underground as well. So that's obviously going to impact more than just sailing. That's everything I wanted to cover for the sailing beta. Was there anything I missed based on your experience? And how are you feeling about sailing now that we've had 2 playtests?